Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing in the long series of our build of the Estes Black Brant XII. Now, construction of this transition is done. It's just waiting for the top part, which I have in my paint shop right now. So we'll look at that in a future episode. This part is definitely in progress, and I put half of the fillets on, so we're going to put the other half on now. I did kind of the up, and now I'm going to do the down sides of this. This actually, it went quite well so far. The only thing that I'm going to be extra careful about is back here because I don't want to get paint on, or glue rather, on the paint. So I'm going to be careful about where I start my fillet. And I'm going to make sure that when I use my finger to smooth it out, that I'm going away from the paint. So I really don't need to screw that up. The paint there actually looks pretty nice, at least for now, until I get a chance to mess it up. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to start with my finger right here and smooth. And I'm going to make sure I'm dabbing my finger, whatever glue that I've brushed off, on my paper towel here as I go. So I don't need to get excess glue in places that it doesn't belong. Right there, somehow I missed a little spot when I brushed it off, and now I've got glue up on the fin, which is annoying, but not really a problem. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm actually going to leave it kind of elevated like this because it is now time to attach the launch lugs. This is hopefully going to be on the shorter side of my videos. Hopefully not a 25-minute long bit. Now, if you recall in the last bit, we put a line, or a mark anyway, there we go, on this space. And so two things have to happen. One is this needs to get attached like that. And the regular launch lug, let's just slide things a little bit here so you can see it better. The launch lug that I did not attach to a standoff is going to go back here. Now, I think what I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm gonna line these up using my ruler here. I'm kind of eyeballing it, but what I really want to do is I want to extend my line because as it is right now, it's pretty short. And that's not going to be very helpful when I'm trying to get my launch lug all lined up. I'm going to do the same thing here. This one's a little bit more difficult to do because I could at least kind of connect the dots. I can line things up, and that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to use my ruler eventually here to check for accuracy, straightness. But I should be in a good position to now attach things. I'm going to also eventually put a fillet on this, provided I can get any glue out of my bottle. There we go. But for now, I'm not gonna do the two-stage attachment here. I just want to spread that out a little bit so it's not clumpy. And on to it goes. Now, I do not have any particular belief that this is going to be a strong bond. I almost am considering breaking out the crazy glue here because I don't particularly trust that because I'm gluing wood glue to plastic, and wood glue to plastic is notoriously not strong. So yeah, fingers crossed. I think what ultimately I'll do is I'll put these on, both of them, and actually I want to sand that because you can see there are a couple little burrs sticking out there. I don't like that prospect, so I'm going to sand it down. Off screen, I realize, but I really don't want to move the rocket at this point. Burrs, they're not there anymore, so that's good. Anyway, I'm going to give this a good go anyway, using just wood glue. And if I don't feel like this is doing the trick, then I may come back later, oops, with CA. But this is one of those where I don't really want it to be setting instantly because I very much want to be able to check my alignment. So on this goes, and I'm supposed to have both of these lined up so that they are at the end of the piece of plastic to which I am attaching them. All right. I'm going to try to brush off the excess glue. This one is going to be a little trickier. It's kind of hard to see what I'm doing. And of course, I bumped it in the process. That's great. Well, let's check the alignment. Now, the nice thing about checking the alignment on this one is there's two pieces of wood there, right, that I glued together. Well, the dividing line ought to go right in the middle of the line that I drew. That's going to be at least fairly easy to check my alignment. That's why I was bumping that forward just to check. And yeah, this doesn't feel like it is particularly well attached. Well, we'll kind of keep our fingers crossed here. Hopefully, I mean, it doesn't really need a lot. The worst thing that the launch lugs have to deal with is any kind of shear that might happen as the rocket is going up the lug. So if there's any kind of, like this business, and that, I mean, that can happen. There's a reason that we use a launch rod, and it is to minimize that, because when the rocket is moving slowly, the fins don't do much. The fins don't really do much until it's going 10 15 meters per second, and it's not right in the first instant of flight. All right, now check for alignment. I've got my ruler here. I'm just going to kind of, I'm eyeballing it straight down. Oops, did I bump anything? Maybe a little bit. Anyway, I'm trying to look if this is going right down the line that I drew earlier, and it looks pretty straight. The other thing that I'm going to do is, again, not going to be helpful for you, but I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to stare down the one and see if it is lined up with the other. It looks like, I mean, they look like they're generally aligned. This one looks like it might be in need of slight adjustment like that. Yeah, that looks better. I might have bumped it a little bit too far. There, try that. I want to be able to see like straight down. There is some give here, but not a lot. All right, so that's the construction there. Now, before I put the fillet on, I'm going to check to see how strong a bond I have here. If this is like, it doesn't feel like it's holding at all, then I'm going to come back and try more significant glue. If, on the other hand, it does seem to be pretty good, the next step is I'm going to actually go and put it on my 1/4-inch rod and make sure that it is very aligned, because I don't want to have a situation here where things are not aligned, and that would be bad. Now, actually, I'm going to look down this direction too, just to get a feel for how that looks. And I mean, I don't think that I don't think it was quite perpendicular. That's one thing. Yeah, this is definitely a situation where using the rod itself should be helpful. But I'm not going to do that just quite yet because the glue is not set. I want it mostly set. So in like 15 minutes maybe. Anyway, that feels pretty promising. Just double checking the lines here. It looks pretty good. So this one, I strongly considered using alternates to the launch lugs. Specifically, I was considering using a launch rail system on this. Now, Typical launch rails. If you build a rocket that takes advantage of that, you use what are called rail buttons. And I want to show you what they look like. So you will not be able to see all this rocket, of course. Getting rid of this for a moment. But what I have coming out here, this is a big Dorward Max, right? This right here is one of its launch buttons, and there are two of them, which you can see here. These fit into the groove of the launch rail, which is a 1-inch wide piece of extruded aluminum or something, or steel maybe. Mine's aluminum, anyway. And the little buttons fit inside of it. Now they drill them into the rocket itself, screw them in, and they hold tight. So this is an option that I considered. But the reason I chose, or I thought better of it, is because there's not a lot of real estate here. I mean, it's possible. It's also worth noting, too, that you have to get your hand in there, or at least it helps to be able to get your hand in there to be able to assist the whole process. Well, there's no way I'm getting my hand in that. It's way too small. The other choice, which honestly I'm considering doing as an after the fact kind of thing, is there are, instead of the little buttons, there are conformal. They're like this long, and I would glue it on here, and that would act as a launch lug, but that would fit in the rail. And they're actually a bit more aerodynamic, so there are definite advantages to using them. They're more teardrop shaped than round, so the aerodynamics are better. And that I could just kind of glue on right about here. I mean, it wouldn't be in line with the launch lugs. It'd be, on this side or over there, probably on the down-facing side at the moment. That would be an option too. I just don't happen to have any of those, and I've actually never used them because I haven't really had the need. Launch buttons have generally been easy enough, and if I do choose to go with that conformal launch button, I guess you could call it, that I would probably either epoxy or crazy glue in place. So something to consider. Anyway, that basically does it for construction. In the intervening time between this one and the next video, I'm not going to bother doing this on camera, but the fins obviously need to be prepped. All that sanding, it is kind of smooth, but there are some notches that I accidentally made, and the tops probably need to be coated a little bit because where the fins came together, I can still see some cracks. Oh, and the epoxy clay assuredly needs to be sanded because it is, it's not bad. It's not good. It's not horrible, but it absolutely needs to be sanded. And I'm going to try to sand it into a bit more of a fillet shape. So, a rounded transition rather than just what we have right here. To do that, I have a dowel that's approximately the diameter of a pencil, and I have some sandpaper, some fairly rough grit sandpaper, crazy glued to it. And what I'm going to do is just kind of go back and forth like this and sand the clay. The clay doesn't really like to be sanded, but it is sandable. It's just not a particularly fun process. So, yeah, between now and then, things are going to get painted, things are going to get sealed, and hopefully by the next video, I should have more finishing steps to be showing you. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.